Okay, so you hear about different types of narcissists. Like you've got coverts, you've got overts, and you hear about malignants. What I believe, now this is just in my imagination where I come up with most of my things, is that what distinguishes them, aside from just the behavior changes, is how they originated, like the nature of the trauma. Like, for example, let's take the vulnerable covert scenario, shockingly humiliated and denigrated by their mother, into pity and shame. And so the emotions that are within that toxic core, primarily have to do with pity, shame, humiliation, embarrassment, and acknowledgement of an utter failure to be. And so that's why, when you see a covert male narcissist sort of like suffer narcissistic injury, it's a little different, right? You hear about narcissistic rage, but in my experience, these people form their narcissistic injury puts them into a state of pitiful collapse. Like a breakdown where there's just utter shame, humiliation, and embarrassment that doesn't necessarily have the same threshold of anger. Okay, and so that's why I think, when we hear about narcissistic injuries, we typically hear about the rage, right? And it's very common. And now when we go into, say, all the way on the other spectrum, the malignant, what distinguishes them, in my mind, is an element of sadistic tendency as well as an elevation of anger and rage that aims to destroy and victimize something, an external object. And so they can become very dangerous because of their violence. And so when they're provoked to injury, they can be escalated to physicality, in a manner that's similar to, like, say, a full psychopath, which I think they may be the same essentially. And so let's say the narcissistic injury or the originating trauma event was something that incorporated physical violence. Like, let's say they were severely beaten as a small child by a malignant narcissist dad. And so now what they do is they form an extreme sense of failure to be, weakness and utter weakness, fear, fury, anger, and a desire for the eradication of the object that they, perceive to be the source. And so the thing about all of these injuries is that they all involve projection. Almost like a recreation of the villain. So like the covert will create like their mommy, and be like pitiful, pathetic, whiny, cry, like almost, in a self-destructive, self-loathing, pitiful state. Whereas the malignant can become violent, can be predatory, can be willfully inflicting physical harm onto the object. And the thing about it is that because these people project and externalize as the source of these emotions, obviously the emotions come from within, but in the occurrence of the individual, you're the source of the suffering, you're the source of the anger, you're the source of the rage. And so it's like being triggered like a fight or flight. It's a survival mechanism. And what happens is the reflection they get from the behavior reinforces it. Like if I'm at a pity party and I look at you looking at me in pity and shame, it's going to enhance it. It's going to escalate. If I'm in a rage and I inflict damage on you, you're going to reflect the monster back. I see what I'm causing, but you see the weakness that you show, the fear that you show, actually aligns with the fear and the weakness within for the inner self that they hate. And so it causes an escalation. They want to eliminate what they're seeing because now, like they are not okay with that inner monster that they've been trying to hide and keep, but they become a victim. And so one thing you'll notice about people in narcissistic injury or rage, they are self-escalating. Like they have an energy within them that they need to externalize, and they can escalate. Like you'll notice that they will say things like my dad used to say, you want to fight your dad, don't you? And so he would follow me trying to provoke me to violence. Don't you walk away from me. And so anything you did, he would use it as a justification for self-escalation. And the thing that I can tell you is that these people are fear-based cowards. And so when you show fear, they escalate to dominate. Like I subdued my dad by showing no fear and dominating him to where he couldn't move. Like he had I literally ended him ever doing that to me at 15 when I threw my father in a bathtub. He followed me into a bathroom. He used to wait drinking at my mom's house. And so imagine my dad following me around. Like he's sitting on the couch. I walk in. He's like, oh, look at you. You play football now. I bet you think you're tough. I bet you think you can take your old man, can't you? Hey, I'm talking to you. Don't you walk away from me. And so I tried to ignore him. He self-escalated. Now he stands up and he's following me. Where are you going? I'm talking to you. I'm in the bathroom. I'm brushing my teeth. Now he's in my face and he's spitting. Like when I look, he's got the eyes, his teeth. I can smell his breath. And with every vile thing he says, he's spitting. You nasty. Look at you. You think you could take me. What's wrong with you? And with that, I wasn't angry. I just didn't like seeing it. And I was tired because he had been doing this, on a persistent basis. And so I took him and I threw him in the bathtub, and it was just blind rage. And so what I did is I told him, I don't want to hurt you, Dad. But I held him down. I did not let him up. And he tried to get up, and I forced him down, and I pinned him in the bathtub. I was 15. He's 80. I'm 44 now. So, he was 50, whatever. And then I just told him, this ends today. You're not going to come here and, bully me and my brothers anymore. Do you understand? And then I said, do you understand? And he said, yes, son. And his face changed, and he got up and he left. After that moment, it never happened again. I think that for malignant narcissists, the fear is a reflection, a negative reflection of self. And because they act as a victim, so they're a victim, you made them this way. My dad's provoking himself as if I'm doing it, me walking away, disrespecting him, me not looking at him when he's talking. I'm talking to you right now, and so he feels entitled to my attention, and he's self-escalating. But, the fear would have provoked him to violence. That's the cowardice with these people, is that these malignants will more likely, hurt things that are weaker than them because they're actually cowardly. That part of the mechanism is fear. They actually have an originating moment of pure helplessness. And so your helplessness, like if you're a small person, a woman, is like their inner child. And I think that what happens to them is that they hate themselves internally, and then they project that onto you. And so as they victimize you and make you smaller and smaller, it's like they're getting a reflection of their monster. They're seeing the confirmation of everything they hate because they actually hate being that rage-filled too. They've been trying to keep it at bay. And now it's out and it's your fault. And so they don't like being that way. Being that way also violates their good guy act. But the thing is that they project that to you. They become a victim of their own self. And that's why I believe people can't understand why a psychopath could stab somebody 200 times. Like, what would cause that? Well, it's because they see the terror, they see the blood, they see everything. And it's a confirmation of the monster and your helplessness, the way that you're weak, you're bleeding. It's like they didn't want to be this way and you made them this way. And so every act that they do that inflicts damage reaffirms the monster that they wish didn't exist, that they didn't need, that they wish they didn't have to be. And they victimize themselves.